Hello folks, Ryan for the VR Grid here, and today we're looking at Hitman 3 VR Reloaded for the Quest 3 headset. And before we get to it, if you enjoy our content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave us a comment with your thoughts on this video. Now, I will preface this video by saying that this is not a full review of Hitman 3 VR Reloaded because I don't want to play the game anymore. And there's a very valid reason behind that, in that there's a day 4 patch coming that's going to change a lot of what I don't like about the game currently. Now, for those that covered my VR exploits back in the day, I played both the PSVR and PC versions of this game and really enjoyed both of them, but obviously the really bad controls in the PSVR hampered the game, and the not much better PC VR controls really just had me wishing for a fully realized Hitman VR game that utilized VR properly. And thankfully, the Quest 3 version of this game does that, but with some pretty big sacrifices. Those sacrifices are largely in the presentation, which I think will be the most divisive point in anyone's review. Now, before I get to that, I will say the gameplay here is for the most part intact. Finally, now both hands are tracked in VR, making this feel like a fully realized first-person title. That alone makes this more immersive than the previous versions just because the gameplay just flows more naturally. I wasn't struggling with trying to memorize, what to do with everything one-handed. Gun mechanics work better. Like, you can actually shoot weapons the way you're supposed to. It's funny, but it's crazy how much IO Interactive dropped the ball when it came to porting the flat version to VR. Now, XR Games has come to the rescue and fixed that gameplay, but it being Quest 3 only, sacrifices were made. Now, while the gameplay is improved, it's still finicky and there are some choices made that do hamper the immersion. Climbing, for instance, when you climb things, you just have to go to the climbing thing, ladder, pole, or whatever, and hit A to activate the climbing mode, in which case you can just use the thumbsticks to move up and down, or you can just use your hands, but you can't see your hands when you climb, so it makes it very, very, very awkward. Sometimes choking people got finicky if they weren't in the right position, so instead of choking them, I would kind of knock them aside or assault them, then they get upset and raise an alarm, and then I'm fighting guys. If you know what you're looking for, it's pretty easy to avoid these things, but at the same time, it's also easy to screw things up. So I think there's definitely room to patch some of the gameplay elements in here, but for the most part, they work and they work well, which is great. Everything from the original game is still here. All your options for assassinations, as far as I can tell, are all here. So the open worldness, or just how many options you have to dispatch your foes and kill people and get away and hide, and all those Hitman options, they're all still here, which is awesome. It makes this feel like a very large game for the Quest platform, one of the biggest games ever, actually. But once again, like I said, there were visual sacrifices. You'll see throughout all my footage, there is rampant pop-in on items close to you, far away from you, people. It's all over the place and it is crazy distracting, and it is one of the things that the developers are addressing in their first patch, which is coming apparently 4 days after launch. I played through the first few stages on the Quest 3 and of course played through much more on the PC and PSVR versions, and I can honestly say the visuals are non-stop distracting. There's some crazy artifacting. I have to assume asynchronous warp is being used because there's some weird blobby effects around some of the NPCs, like when they climb stairs, or just some weird kind of halo effects. And I get it. I understand that this game is pushing the Quest 3 to its absolute limit. I can see why. It's a massive game. I mean, the developers have stated in the club stage, there's over 500 NPCs visible. And I don't know if I believe that number, honestly, because from what I've seen so far, the game's having trouble rendering 50 to 100 people. But once again, this is their update. This is their game. I have to take their word for it. And you can see here in this side-by-side footage I put together from the Dubai stage, you can see what I'm talking about. All right, folks, now for the side-by-side testing of the pre and post gameplay for the Quest 3 version of Hitman 3 VR Reloaded. Now, for the record, the sample of the post-patch gameplay is not my own. It's supplied by the developer, so I didn't record it. I tried my best to match my movements as much as possible, but I didn't record it. So hopefully this is representative of the actual patch. Here we go. Starting off the Dubai stage, just pay attention to the pop-in. There's a lot happening. Details look on par across both versions, very similar. Aliasing issues are kind of a thing on both versions. It happens a lot on the version I played. Aliasing issues are rampant. That's supposed to be getting remedied or fixed, addressed. in the upcoming patch. But watch the glasses on the counter here. You'll see the balls just appear, the door appears. You can just see assets are just like popping all over the place all the time. It's distracting. It's honestly, it's super distracting to a point where, like I said in this review or pre-review, I'm not going to play this game until the patch drops, just because I want to make this the best experience. The gameplay is great. It's solid. Check the crowds here. Watch the crowd just start popping in like crazy on the left, whereas it's already mostly rendered on the right. I would way rather play that because, like I said, the popping is just jarring, and that really is the main takeaway from this side-by-side video. It's just this day 4 patch, when it launches, should make this game substantially more playable. And it's good. The gameplay's fine. Everything's still intact. The game works great. It's just, man, the pop-in and some of the visual jank, some crazy aliasing issues and artifacting, it can be crazy distracting. So yeah, that's all I have to say about this thing. I hope this helps you guys, and back to the review. But beyond those changes, the actual art style used is fine. Going cell shaded makes perfect sense for the platform, and obviously this is not going to run Hitman 3 like it could even on the PSVR. You know, the power of a console versus the power of the Quest 3, and graphics processing and everything else. So I'm impressed. Like, the ragdoll physics are still here when you drag bodies around. It seems like all the preset animations are still intact. So as people walk around or interact, they are moving as they would in the original version of the game. So the whole game has been translated, and translated relatively well considering the platform. It's just there are sacrifices you should be aware of. This is the standalone version of the Hitman 3, so you should probably temper expectations, but at the same time, you'll probably be impressed by some aspects of the game, like just the scale of the stages. Like I said, this is not a full review by any stretch, but I did want to put this out there explaining why I haven't done so yet, and I'm still planning on doing so when that first patch drops and addresses many of my issues. I'll be talking to the developers to ensure that when I publish a review, it is for quote-unquote the finished product. But for now, I just want to make you guys aware that Hitman 3, it's a good game, it's fun, and it has all those Hitman options. It's just the visual sacrifices. I think for some people, it'll be easy to forgive those, while others will harsh the game for being in the state that it currently is. And I get both sides of that argument, and now you know. So stay tuned for my full review, and I hope this helps if you want to purchase it or not. And like I said, if you enjoyed this video, please do all the YouTube things to help us out. That's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching.
Mr. Ritter's stealing their Picassos and shit. Jeez, keep your voice down. They don't even see it.